This video will go through step-by-step instructions for creating a grade scheme for your D2L course that's all connected and linked into D2L so that it auto-updates as you grade all of your assessment pieces. So you're going to start by clicking on Edit Course on your nav bar. From there, you're going to scroll down to the Assessment section, and you're going to click on the hyperlink that says Grades. From here, you're going to be able to click on the top where it says Setup Wizard. That's going to help you establish all of your assignments and the criteria that you are going to be putting in to create a final grade for your students. So if you scroll to the bottom, you can click Start. I like to use a weighted grading system. I think that for the most part, I think a lot of us think in terms of this. For example, you might say that all quizzes should constitute 30% of your mark. All discussion posts should constitute 30% of your mark. You might even think in terms of individual assignments. So I would like Unit 1, Lesson 3, the assignment for that, to be worth 10% of the final grade. You can also use a points system. If you were going to use a point system, I think it might be easiest to make it out of 100 points just because percentages are easier to calculate that way. And realistically, final grades are used as percentages. So, but again, I think weighted is probably the easiest way to do it. So click weighted and scroll down and click continue. I like to have the option to adjust the final grade rather than just have a calculated final grade, just because this gives you the opportunity to use your professional judgment at the end of a course and to alter a student's grade based on perhaps some informal assessment that you've done. Maybe you've decided that you would like to change the weighting of a particular assignment for a student and you just don't want it to be a simple mathematical way of coming up with their grade. You want to use your professional judgment, so I use adjusted final grade. Click Continue. From here, you have the option to either drop ungraded items or treat ungraded items as a 0. I like to drop ungraded items. My reason for this is that if you treat ungraded items as a 0, when you're trying to look at up-to-date current percentage marks for each of your students, any of the future assignments that you have included within your grading scheme are obviously going to have a mark of 0 because you haven't got to them yet and they haven't been completed, and that's going to be negatively impacting the current grade. Whereas if you choose drop ungraded items, it's literally only counting the assignments that actually have a number associated with it. So it's a more accurate reflection of where they stand. When you're creating your grade scheme, you can go in and give students mark of 0 on particular assignments, and that will update their mark to make sure that it's an actual reflection of how they're doing. At the bottom, I like to automatically keep final grade updated, meaning as you continue assessing, the grade will continue to change. So you click Continue. There's different types of grading schemes that you can choose. I like to use percentages because that's the kind of grade that we have to come up with at the end. Then you can click Continue once you scroll to the bottom. How many decimal places do you want to include in their grade? Do you want it to be 57.65%? I mean, I think that one decimal place is good enough. You can click Continue. And then you have to figure out how you want this information to be displayed to the students when they access their grades under the little grades link that you can include in your nav bar. I like to give them their points grade and their weighted grade. They can see as many decimal places as you want them to. And at the bottom, you want to make sure that you've clicked Display Final Grade Calculations to Users. You can click Continue from there. Step 7 is basically just giving you an overview of all of those decisions you've just made in the past few steps. You can click Finish. And here is where we start actually inputting all of the assignments that you would like to go towards your final grade. So there's a few ways that you can do that. I like to click on Create a New Grade Item. I'm going to be choosing a numeric grade item because for myself personally, I don't necessarily mark formal assignments in terms of levels. I'm usually giving it an out of mark. So I click on numeric, and then I can here put the name of whatever the assignment is. So for this course, I'm going to say that this is a Unit 1, Lesson 1 called New world order. I'm just going to be copying that same title here for the short name. Category. You'll notice here that so far I don't have any categories. So basically what this means is, how are you going to be organizing all of the assignments that you have? Are you going to be organizing them in terms of units? Are you going to be organizing them in terms of types of assignment? For example, if you're the type of teacher that would like to say all quizzes are weighted the same, and maybe all quizzes will be worth 30% of the mark, and then you might say all of the Dropbox assignments come together that constitute 50% of the mark, that might be the way that you choose to organize and create categories. Or alternatively, you could say that I want Unit 1 to be worth 20% of the mark. I want Unit 2 to be worth 20% of the mark, Unit 3 to be 20%, so on and so forth. So this is basically how you're going to label those categories. So you might say that I'm going to have Dropbox assignments. I'm going to just repeat that title in the second box there. And then here's where we figure out what percentage we want this to be. So if you believe that Dropbox assignments are more weighty in your course and that you would like to allot more space for them in the final grade, you might say that you want it to be 35% of the overall grade is constituted by the Dropbox assignments. Now there's different ways that you can do this. You can take all of your different Dropbox assignments and you can assign different specific weights to them. Or if you think that all Dropbox assignments should be weighted equally, you can click Distribute Weight Evenly across all items. You can do manually assign, distribute weights across the category. I like to do distribute weight evenly across all items. Because realistically, let's say discussion posts might be all more formative type assignments, smaller assignments, maybe even quizzes might be smaller type assignments. Maybe your Dropbox assignments are usually like a unit summative, and that's where you want to apply most of the weight. And each unit should be sort of treated maybe separately. So then you can click Save. Now for this particular assignment, you're going to be also writing in how many points you want to allot it. So basically, if this is an out of mark, how many marks is it out of? It might be out of 10, it might be out of 25, it might be out of 100. It's totally up to you based on what the assignment is. Now you can notice that weight here has been grayed out. The reason why it's grayed out is because you might recall when I was setting up the new category, I stated that I wanted all of the assignments in this category to be weighted equally. So the reason why it's grayed out is I can't change this manually because it's automatically going to change and update as I add more assignments to this Dropbox category, which is 35% of the final grade. So I'm going to scroll down to the bottom and I'm going to click Save and New. This is where I can add in the next assignment that I would like to use to constitute the final grade. It's going to be another numeric assignment. Let's say this time it's going to be Unit 2, Lesson 1, Rights and Responsibilities. This is the name of one of my assignments. I'm going to copy that as the short name. This assignment is also a Dropbox assignment, so when I'm choosing the category, if I click drop down, you can see that Dropbox now is existing there because I just created it the last time. Let's say though that this assignment wasn't a Dropbox assignment. Let's say it was a discussion that I created. Well, if I wanted discussions to be a whole different weighting in my final grade, then I would have to create a new category. And let's say I want discussions to be worth 25% of my final grade. And I want all of the discussion forums to come together and to be weighted equally. So I would distribute weight evenly across all items and click Save. Now, let's say this assignment's out of 100. I don't know, I'm just making up a number here. Then you can scroll down and you can click Save and Close. You could click Save and Continue and keep creating more and more assignments. So what you'll notice here, the gradebook's a little messed up. You can see if we scroll to the bottom here that I now have, and you can see it's a gray line across here. This is how I know it's basically like a unit or a category. And then within that, I have this heading, which is the actual Dropbox Unit 1 Lesson 1 New World Order. And then, I also created a discussion sort of unit. And you can see that the percentages here are the percentages of the final grade. Okay, so that's the first step to creating a gradebook. Now what you'll have to do is go back to the actual assignments that you're grading. So that might be a Dropbox, it might be a discussion, it might be a quiz, and you have to link that Dropbox assignment or link that discussion to the gradebook item which we have just created. So, for example, Dropbox Unit 1 Lesson 1 New World Order. I can go to my Dropbox here. And you can see that I've got a Dropbox sitting here that I've previously created. I can do the drop down, edit folder. And here you can see currently there's no grade item because it has not been associated to anything within my grading scheme. So if I click that drop down menu there, I can look for the Dropbox section that I just created. I'm going to give it a mark, same one as I put when I was creating my grading scheme, which is out of 100. If you have a rubric that you want to include, you can attach a rubric while you're here as well. And when you're done, you're going to click Save and Close. You should know that if you want to check to see if you've successfully linked Dropbox to the grade item, you can do that by clicking on Edit Course, Grades, Enter Grades. Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to say Enter Grades. I meant to say Manage Grades. So if we scroll all the way to the bottom here to find that, so Unit 1 Lesson 1 New World Order, you can see here that it says Dropbox in this second column here, the second column which is titled Association. So we have associated it with a grade item, which is under the category of Dropbox, so you know that you did this correctly. Now, this is how we attach a Dropbox to a grade item, but we can also attach discussions as well. So let's just say I have a discussion here. Let's just say I was going to grade this one. So I go into my discussion section from your nav bar. You find whichever discussion that you're going to grade and that you want to associate with the grading scheme, and you can click the drop down arrow and click Edit Topic. So we can see here that we have the title of the assignment. We want to click on the Assessment tab up at the top. And this is where we can associate it to a particular grade item. So let's just say down here, remember I created the category called Discussions because discussions are going to be worth 25% of the final grade. I'm going to find the grade item that I already created within my grading scheme. I'm going to link it together. I'm going to give it an out of score. Again, this has to match the out of score that you created when you were making your grading scheme. And then you can, if you want to add a rubric, you can add a rubric. And you can click Save and Close. Associating quizzes works very similarly to how you would associate a discussion. This particular course I'm looking at right now doesn't have any quizzes, so I can't really illustrate that. Actually, if you give me just a second, let's see, what courses do I have? Let's just go into another course so I can show you. So I would click on my nav bar, the quizzes. I would find whichever quiz that I want to put towards the final grade. You would click the drop down arrow next to whichever one you want to associate. You would click Edit, Assessment, and again, you can see here I've already linked it with a grade item, but if you had not already done that, you would just click that drop down and you would add whichever grade item you want to attach it to. Click Save and Close. Now, obviously, it's helpful when you're creating your grading scheme if you know all of the assignments that you want to do from the beginning. But let's just say you're planning a course as you go and you're not entirely sure which assignments you're going to be formally grading. You can add them in as you go. So you would just go back, if you wanted to do that, to your Edit Course in your nav bar. You would go back to your grades, and you would click on the blue button that says New, and you can create a new item. And again, you're going to choose here, it's probably an assignment that has an out of mark, and you will continue on with the same process that you did previously. So hopefully this helps and you can do it on your own.